Buckle up, friends, and welcome to the Thriving Alcohol-Free Podcast. I'm your host, Deb, otherwise known as Mocktail Mom, a retired wine drinker that finally got sick and tired of spinning on life's broken record called Detox to Retox. Let this podcast be an encouragement to you if alcohol is maybe a form of self-care for you, where you find yourself dragging through the day waiting to pour another glass. I am excited to share with you the fun of discovering new things to drink when you aren't drinking and the joy of waking up each day without a hangover. It is an honor to serve as your sober fun guide, so sit back and relax or keep doing whatever it is you're doing. This show is produced for you with love from the great state of Kentucky. Thanks so much for being here and big time cheers. Okay, hey friends, it's Deb. Welcome back to Thriving Alcohol-Free. How are you? I'm so happy you're here. And we have a very special guest today. I actually got to meet her IRL in person. 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago? Yeah, just a week and a half ago at Limestone Barbecue and Bourbon in Wilmington, Delaware. I came out there for a mocktail workshop, and Abby Calabrese came in person. She actually sat next to Kim, who's in my membership. I know you guys got to connect and stuff. So, Abby, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to meet you. It was so great to just meet you in person and then to know that we were going to sit down and actually have a talk, so we didn't get to really chit-chat much. But you are living in the area where I grew up, which is so funny. You live on the main line. Well, I didn't live on the main line, but you live in the Philadelphia suburbs, which is where I grew up. So
yeah.
So fun that you're living out there.
I know. Well, especially right now. Go Birds.
Yes. Okay, right. So this podcast will come out, I think it's going to come out right after the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
So yes, you have your nails done. You are ready to go. You are ready to cheer them on. Where is the game? Is it in New Orleans? Is that where it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was in Philadelphia or in Wilmington, Delaware, whatever, the area right when you guys had the playoff
championship.
Who did we beat? Who did you beat? What team was that? No, I can't remember.
Oh my gosh. Commanders.
Okay. Right. Washington, right?
Washington.
Yeah. So everybody was wearing green on my flight in and then on my flight out. Everybody at the TSA was all dressed in green. I wanted to so badly. I wanted to be like start yelling the Eagles, like singing the Eagles thing and see if everybody just started participating.
Oh, they would.
That'd be a great TikTok, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All for the content. Okay, can I read your bio? Can I tell everybody who you are? Because you're such a special person. I want them to get to know you. Okay, Abby Calabrese is an alcohol-free coach and podcaster, a brand new podcaster. You guys have to listen to her podcast. She's helping women embrace a fun, love it, fulfilling life in sobriety. That's fantastic. She blends practical tips, humor, and a fresh perspective to make society approachable. Oh, sorry, sobriety. Not society.
And society.
Society's always, some people it's not so approachable, right? To make sobriety approachable and exciting, Abby is passionate about reducing the shame around alcohol struggles and inspiring women to discover a life they truly love. I love that. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, I want to hear your story about how you broke up with alcohol. How did this happen? How did you become an alcohol-free coach and a podcaster? Where did this all start?
If you told me even 2 years ago that this is what I'd be doing, I'd be like, you've lost your mind. And or what happened? Something must have happened, right? Because I was living the complete opposite. Maybe not complete opposite, but alcohol was a huge part of my life. It's a pretty typical story. And this is what's really drawn me to get more involved in this area, because I think my perception of someone who had a quote unquote problem with alcohol is completely different than what I experienced. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this or out there probably don't even realize it, or they really need to hear this to not feel like they're so alone. And it's confusing.
Yeah.
But it was, a typical high school party and drinking in college. And it really it made it so much easier to socialize. And I had a lot of childhood trauma and it was just unhealed. And it was a way for me to turn all that off, right? I had a lot of pain and insecurity and doubt, and alcohol just put that all on the back burner for a little bit and let me have a good time. And so that was really its place for a long time. And it was kind of fine. It was, of course, you had your nights that you went a little bit overboard, but it wasn't anything concerning. Where it really upticked was after I had my first son, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And I've lived in New York City for 11 years after graduation. And our first move to the suburbs was after we had our first son and he was little. And I just noticed that, once he got into a regular schedule, he would go to sleep at like 7:30. But we were in what I called baby jail because that's great. He's asleep, but you're there, right? You're not
you're not going anywhere. You have him on the monitor, but you can't leave.
Right,
Yes.
right. You can't leave the premise. So I was like, oh, okay. And having lived in New York, we didn't really drink a lot in our apartment because you're not in your apartment all that much. And so that's where I started to like, oh, I'll get some bottles of wine and bring them home and we'll have some cocktails. And that's really when the drinking at home began.
Yeah.
And it's all a slow roll, right? It's not like, oh, all of a sudden it was a problem. It was really just slowly increasing. So I would start one glass of wine, quickly turned into two, turned into three. Pretty soon you're finishing a bottle. And it's like, whoa. And so that was pretty surprising. And then the next big thing that kind of jumped up the drinking charts was the pandemic, which I hear that for so many women.
Same.
Right?
Yep.
And I think for me, it was, feeling that same loss of control, not knowing what to do, not knowing that unknowing. I have, dealt with a lot of anxiety and that just kind of ratcheted that up. Having a little kid during this time, really hard. And so they deemed alcohol stores, that they essential. So they kept those open, which I didn't. Do you know why they did that?
Well, I mean, I think it was just marketing. I mean, it makes so much money. I think it's the lobbyists probably, right? No?
Well, I think this is correct. But what I heard was because people get, how they're addicted to alcohol, if you just remove it, it's like life-threatening for people.
Okay.
If you get to a certain level of alcoholism, you can't just take it away from somebody.
Right.
They'll, so they deemed it essential. And so that's what I heard. But anyways, you didn't know that at the time, right? I think more and more of this is coming out. But I started going to like a Total Wine or those big stores, and you could just pull right up, open the back of your car, and they slide in. And it was cases of wine and different things. And I would, stock up for the whole family, whatever everybody wanted. None of this crossed my mind as like problematic. It was like, oh, well, we're stuck at home. And, it's a case of wine, nice wine, You're
like, I'm buying nice wine. This is not even boxed wine, people.
Yes, this has a pretty label on it. Yeah. Like, how could this possibly be, right? And then I start noticing that those trips to refill start getting closer and closer to each other. And I'm like, So that really started to ratchet it up. I did then have my second son. And, during the pregnancy, I never drank, but I was miserable. I was irritated. I was annoyed. I was like, I didn't enjoy anything really without it. And you can talk yourself in or out of that. It's like, well, of course, nobody likes being pregnant, or, oh, I bet you can't wait to have that glass of wine, or what. This is all very normalized. Like if you did this around another type of drug, people would be like, oh my gosh,
you're right? You're totally right.
But with alcohol, it was like, oh, I bet you can't wait. I bet, all this stuff. So it was all just so normalized that, again, it was really no red flag to me.
Yeah.
And then after I had my son, there was always that period afterwards, you're breastfeeding, doing all those things. And I was still irritated because it was all like, I can have a glass of wine, but then I have to wait so long. And then I'm pumping and then I have to, and it was all just like this matrix in my mind.
Yeah. Gymnastics.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting. And so then once I was out of the breastfeeding stage, then it was back to drinking. And again, it just kept ratcheting up. And I was feeling worse and worse and worse. I would wake up so irritable. I felt sick, like literally sick. My head, my stomach, it was getting harder and harder for me to eat, which was really weird.
Really?
Like it was getting really, really bad. And pretty much every time we would have like a night out, it ended in a blackout. No one, I don't know about anybody, but I certainly didn't go into those evenings like, I'm going to black out.
Oh, no. You probably went into it thinking, I'm going to have one. I'll have 1 or 2 glasses of wine. This will be an elegant evening out.
Right. And it never hit me the same way. Like I could have the same amount of drinks one night and then the next night, and it would be totally different. And I would come up with every excuse. Oh, I'm stressed, or I didn't drink enough water, or I didn't eat enough, or what. And it's just like, okay, this is just getting crazy. But the end, there were a bunch of, little rock bottoms, I guess, but there was no like huge event. it just got to the point where it was a combination of me being really scared for what direction I could see it going and just not wanting to feel sick anymore. I just wanted something better. And so I started listening to podcasts.
Really?
And
was that your first tiptoe into sober curiosity?
Yes, I would listen to some sober podcasts, but I would then like put them away starting on like Thursday. I'd be like, that's enough. And then I'd have my
Let's go back to my business. What the other podcast I like to listen to? Yes, let's go back to my
my Bravo.
Yeah.
I got to get my Bravo.
Okay,
podcast.
yes, get into the Bravo. Yeah,
right. And then on Monday, feeling terrible, start listening to the sober podcast again. And so so I always tell people that, whether they're following me on Instagram or listen to the podcast, like that's part of it. I think you really do have to be like curious first.
Yep.
And okay, what is this about? And start to dabble because it's almost too much to take in at once.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
If you told me, you're going to start this, then you're going to be sober the rest of your life, then you're going to be this warrior for sobriety, I'd be like, okay, hold on a minute.
Yeah. You're like, I don't want to admit that I'm sober curious, let alone that I'm going to be an alcohol-free coach or coaching people. No, never.
No.
I call it like window shopping sobriety. Like, I feel like I did that for like the first year, or I should say like the year before I became alcohol-free. I would just like scroll. I would be drinking and I'd be scrolling on Instagram, looking at these accounts. And I'm thinking like, how does Tim McGraw, but I was like, how does he not drink? How does Tim McGraw not drink? Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Me neither.
I couldn't wrap my head around it. It seems so impossible.
It felt like there'd be no joy. There'd be no excitement. There'd be no celebration.
Yeah.
And it was so hard to admit for a long time what was going on. Like even after I removed alcohol, it was just like, oh, this is just a 100-day challenge or, oh, whatever. Or, oh, I didn't really have an issue or whatever. And then more and more as I get stronger and stronger in my sobriety, really being vulnerable and sharing how I truly felt. And all of that is just so cathartic. But also I know it's helping people. And so that's getting easier and easier to do.
Totally.
Freeing, as I go
right?
into. It is.
It's so freeing. So did you feel a lot of shame, like about how you're drinking, like how the slow roll, you called it like a slow roll, which I think many of us, I know mine was the same way. Slow roll that's a good description.
Oh my gosh. Shame has followed me since childhood, really.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, really rough childhood. Very, very rough.
I'm so sorry.
So it was just a lot of, when your home environment isn't stable and you can't rely on that for, the unconditional love and safety and all of that, then everything's kind of rocked and you're kind of not trusting everything. And so and I didn't know this at the time, but how I adapted to that was trying to be the perfect little girl. And so I wanted to get the perfect grades and look perfect and act perfectly and, do everything because maybe that'll do it. That'll get that love, And so that follows you. I mean, it followed me into college and, academically, I just really put a lot of pressure on myself. And then like my career and what job I got into, it was never, what do I want to do? It was like, well, what is success? Like, what is going to look good on paper, like impress people, make a lot of money. Nothing was like truly what Abby wanted to do or like what brings me joy or fulfillment. It was all outward appearance to try to get that acceptance and love that I was so craving.
Wow. That validation. Yeah. Yeah.
And that drinking, as soon as I discovered drinking then too, it was like, oh, this is even a faster track, right? Because it's like, once I started drinking, it felt like it softened the edges and it allowed me to be palatable to people. That's how I felt. I know now that that's not correct, right? That's all in your brain doing all of that. But I felt that was the only reason people liked me was because I could hang, quote unquote, and always kind of like a guy's girl. I know a lot about sports and all of this stuff. And I could like hang. I could just, go out all night and party and up for anything. And I was like, well, that's why people like me. So I can't stop that. Like I really had my identity tied to it. And then the idea that I would stop that would signify, well, why would you stop that? Because you have a problem or an issue or something like that. And then I felt immense shame around that. It kept me stuck for a long time. Like I think I would have quit drinking a lot earlier, but I was so terrified of like the label alcoholic. I grew up with an alcoholic. I was like, that, what? Like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
it felt like, am I just repeating exactly what I grew up and had so much difficulty with? And it kept me stuck. And I think through a lot of books, including like Quit Like a Woman
Good books, good
or,
quit lit. Yeah.
oh, or This Naked Mind, it just gets you to start to realize, oh my gosh, like you don't have to have any label. You don't have to, it's just, you're trying to choose a different path for yourself. You're curious. You're on this road of discovery and you realize you feel so much better.
Bingo. Right. Right. So why? It's so interesting. I was the same way. Like I probably would have stopped drinking probably 3 years before I actually stopped. But I felt like if I don't drink, people are going to think I have a problem. Why is that? Like, what is that? There's people listening right now who are thinking the same thing we were thinking. It's like, just let that go. Leave that on the side of the road and just walk forward into your sober curiosity.
I know. I think society, I mean, again, I always just compare it to something else. So I think it's easier to see the ridiculousness of it. But like, cocaine.
Yeah.
No one's like, wait, you can't moderate your cocaine.
This is true.
You can't do,
so true.
You can't just do 1 or maybe 2 cocaine. I don't even know what.
Yeah, what do they do? I don't know what they do. Right, here we are. Now we're going to start talking about things we have no idea what we're talking about. You really don't know.
Do you know what I mean?
That I've never tried. Never tried anything. Yeah.
That's downright ridiculous.
Yeah,
or
of
like
course.
Cigarettes.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't just have 1 cigarette?
Yeah, isn't
or
that
like,
true?
Oh,
but yeah,
you can't
why
moderate.
is it with alcohol? It's like we should all just be able to moderate. Yeah.
Well, think that's how they push it too. Like on all the alcohol commercials, drink responsibly, and then they wipe their hands of it. Oh,
isn't that true?
There's DUIs and all of these diseases and cancers and everything that this causes and violence, and people are dying from it. And they're like, well, just do it responsibly. Imagine that with any other
Yeah, no, you're totally right.
or
Yeah,
addictive
like
substance.
an ad for cocaine and then just like, okay, snort responsibly. Is that what they do?
Just
what do they
responsibly.
do?
Yeah.
Yes.
And someone was saying, I haven't been to Disney World since I was a kid, but they were saying they have like carts handing out alcohol at Disney World. It's like, imagine them doing that with drugs.
Right.
It's like, you would be
never,
like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just society. We're not there yet, but like, look at tobacco products and cigarettes and everything. Like no one judges you for not smoking. Right. But there was a time where it was like, well, why don't you just smoke? Oh, I want to lose weight. Well, smoke. You want a smaller baby? I read that somewhere. They used to say, doctors used to say, you want a smaller baby? Smoke cigarettes.
I should have done it. Hannah was 9 pounds, 1 ounce, people. Apparently I was not smoking. I was pregnant.
I had like an almost 10-pound baby.
No,
I know.
you didn't.
I was like, yes.
And you're tiny. You are tiny.
I know. It was not good. It was not good.
It's like a 10th of your weight.
I know. And he's still huge. He has this huge head. Yeah.
Now, how old are your kids? Sorry, I didn't even ask you. How old are your children?
They're 6 and 3.
Okay. Oh, you have little ones. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a fun time of life. Amazing, Abby. And here you are living an alcohol-free lifestyle and you get to enjoy being their mom and be present with them. Be present with them in a way that like you wouldn't be otherwise.
No. And I really wasn't. And I noticed it with my older son. So I've been sober now. It's a little over a year. Okay. My sober date's 11/11/23. The one time, so like he doesn't even understand still what alcohol is or anything like that, of course, but they can tell when you're being a little bit different. And one of the last times, like I said, I had a lot of little rock bottoms, but I walked him home from like a neighborhood party. It was a Halloween party right at the end of my drinking. And that walk home was fuzzy at best.
Yeah.
And I was like, I won't do again. I grew up in this. And all I said growing up is, I will not do this to my family.
Wow.
And it happens in a way, it's so tricky. It's like
sneaky.
It doesn't happen in the exact way that you experienced. It finds another way to creep in.
You're right. Yeah. And, it doesn't come and knock on the front door.
That was another thing where I was like, no.
Yeah, boy, Halloween's a drinking day, isn't it? It's become like a drinking holiday for moms. Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, I used to put wine in my Yeti or whatever and walk my daughters around. So have you made a lot of new friends in sobriety? So you haven't been sober that long. I mean, a year and a couple months. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I know. I'm still, early on. But I think what's so interesting is, especially at this age, I feel like I just went through a lot of different phases. So you go from the college to the post-college to early, motherhood, and along each of those phases, you see friends kind of coming and going because as you're in those different phases, it becomes hard to relate to people that aren't in your phase. Not that you're not going to be friends with them.
Right. But it's like they don't have kids. They don't understand I'm staying up all night. They don't understand us, the kids. They don't understand ear infections. Yeah. It's not that you don't love them as a friend. You're just in different stages. Yeah.
You're just in different stages, so you're going to relate in a different way, right? And so a big part of, I was terrified. If I quit drinking, all my friends are going to be like, lame. All right, see you later.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I hear that from a lot of people that I coach and talk to. But what's so cool is you're sober friends, which I know kind of sounds a little cheesy, but once you're in it, it is like a fast track to getting to like the real stuff, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you've all been through it. And so you just have this knowing between you and you can just like cut out all the small talk and you just get right down to it. And there's something so cool about that. And so I just feel like the connections that I've made through sobriety have been honestly some of the best ever.
That's amazing. Now, the sober community, I think like no matter what age somebody is, that you have this thing in common and it strips away a lot of that fakeness. And you don't need alcohol to be able to chit chat and to quote unquote connect, right? Like, right? Didn't we all connect so much at parties or whatever, connecting when we were drinking? No, I wasn't connected with anybody. I was zoning out, buzzing out. But now we can really connect with people instantly.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I kind of get a rush. Like it's like similar to that feeling that I used to like crave from the alcohol or whatever. I get that rush because it's like, I don't know, it's just that connection and feeling really understood and having similarities. It's just a really, really good feeling. And I felt it at your event.
Oh, I'm so glad. I know you got to sit next to Kim. She's just the sweetest.
So great.
She's the sweetest. I'm so glad you guys ended up sitting next to each other. That was like, it was just all so random how it all happened. So I'm so glad you guys got to connect. She's wonderful. So I don't know, Kim, if you're listening, we love you. If you're listening.
We do.
Yes, she's awesome. Okay, yes. So we had a mocktail event, the mocktail workshop. So what do you think of all the boom of all these non-alcoholic options, the sober movement? I mean, it's incredible, right?
It's amazing. Yeah. So I went to your event and I think right the weekend before I went to another sober event in Philly that had a lot of vendors set up.
Good.
And it's just so amazing to see because I think one, it signals to you a lot. You just have to see out in real life, IRL, as you say, because it's like, okay, great. I'm going to do this, but am I going to be this odd duck everywhere I go where I'm like, oh, can I have a mocktail? What do you mean a mocktail? Like that is really discouraging. So to see all of these brands coming up and seeing more and more restaurants having these options, you just naturally, even if it's not consciously, subconsciously, you're like, oh, this is like a thing. This is happening and I'm not alone. And there are all these other people that clearly, want this and want this for themselves. So I think that there's something so validating about it. But then there's just like, it helps me. It's not just for show. It literally helps me. Like last night, I just made a quick little like, alcohol-free margarita.
Yeah.
And it just felt so good. And like, you garnish it and it feels special and it's symbolic. And it really has helped me so much in my sobriety to have those options and still feel like I can have a special little drink and it tastes great. And all the options you had are so great. I'm like making those for the Super Bowl.
Oh, good. No, it is. It's like the first time I went out to order something to drink. The first time I went out and I ordered a mocktail, the girl's like, I can make you a Shirley Temple. I mean, this was back in 2021. So it was like, wah. So it has changed so much in just the last couple of years. It's incredible. But right, just to continue to have that ritual, just change the ingredients. And now you're not waking up with a hangover. You're not, even if you crave two more or whatever. So, you know what I mean? So you have two more or whatever. But like, it's not, there's no shame attached to it the next day.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, alcohol-free options have helped me so much on my alcohol-free journey. It's helped so much. Yeah.
So much. Because my personality, a lot of people are like, oh, well, why don't you just like, or especially now you've gone so long, why don't you just have one or two? And it's like, that's just not how my body works. And there's no shame in that. That's just like understanding how you work. Like if I didn't process dairy very well or whatever, gluten. You would avoid it, right? Because you'd be like, no, I'm not going to like, you know what I mean? So you get to know how your body interacts and not everybody's like that. I'm not someone that thinks like everybody needs to do what I'm doing. But I think you really have to take a look at like, okay, how is this impacting me? Like shame and everything aside of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good, right? And it hits me in different ways. I would have like several drinks and not feel anything. And then all of a sudden, boom, it would hit me. And so it's like, okay, well, that's how my body breaks down and processes alcohol. And that's not great. And so now I can have these other options and not worry at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's delicious things to drink. Yeah.
Yes.
And you have that shop near you. I swung by there. I pulled in. Somebody DM'd me on Instagram after the mocktail workshop we did in Wilmington. Somebody DM'd me. And I don't know her. She doesn't even have a profile picture. But she was like, oh, if you're in the area, you should go to, what is it, Wallace Dry Goods?
Yes.
Right? On the main line. And I was like, okay. So I looked them up. And by the time I got there, it was going to be like 20 minutes until they closed. So I called to make sure they were going to be open, drove out there. It is the most beautiful bottle shop. I mean, it is incredible.
Incredible.
It feels so elegant, elevated, and just the way she has everything laid out. It's beautiful. So yeah, you live near a gem. I mean,
I know. And she's so lovely. And she has like these awesome events. I went to a little flower arranging event there.
Yeah.
And it's just nice. And then she introduces new products. You get to taste them before you kind of decide on what you want.
Awesome.
But that's where I found a lot of options. But yeah, it just feels really good in there. Like, think about like a traditional liquor store.
Oh.
It's so like grimy.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. No, this was like, you felt like you were like walking into like, Pottery Barn almost.
Yes.
But there's all these beautiful bottles on the shelf. She has beautiful glassware. Yeah, I'm going to have her on the podcast for sure. I just loved her shop. Yeah, that's the standard.
Yes. And her whole message is so great. Like you saw the sign in the back. It's all about cheers to choices.
Yeah.
We should have choices, right? And I like someday, is it going to be, you always see regular and decaf coffee? Is it going to always see a regular and non-alcoholic?
Regular wine. And it's going to be leaded and unleaded. Yep.
Yes.
Regular and non-alcoholic. Absolutely. It's definitely going that way. Yeah. Cheers to choices. I love her little tagline. Beautiful. Okay, so if you are at home, so you drink, you'll make a margarita for yourself. Do you drink any of the non-alcoholic wines? Do you like any of those? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any favorites that you want to tell everybody about that they should be drinking?
Sauvignon Blanc. I love Gießen.
Oh, you're speaking my love language. They're my favorite. Yes.
I just want a giveaway. So I didn't even realize
good,
it. Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So did you want a whole case of it then? Probably, because that's what they do. I just did some giveaways with them. And and so I've been getting pictures of people who got the box of a case.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited.
Oh yeah, that's so like Christmas for you.
Yeah, I know. My husband's like, what just happened? I'm like, I just want a case of non-alcoholic.
This is like, it's better than Christmas, honey. You have no idea. Yeah, that's expensive. I mean, that's a lot of wine. Yeah, that's nice.
I'm so excited.
Good.
I was like, this is good. Awesome. Yeah, so that's one of my favorites. And my favorite red is Saint Viviana.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Their Cabernet is really good because red has been tricky to find.
Yep.
But that one I think is really, really good. And then if you add a little bitters, or actually Kim was saying she adds a little balsamic to some depending on how it, is kind of feeling. So that's my favorite. And then I think the sparkling in general are just way better.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's so many good options. Yeah. Yeah.
Prima Pave.
Actually, which one?
Prima Pave.
Oh, yeah, it's delicious. Yes.
Yeah.
Really nice. Really nice.
Yeah.
Okay. You have nice wine options. Yes. So many good things to drink. We're not drinking. And if you go out, okay, last question. If you go out and order something in a restaurant, if they don't have like a mocktail on the menu, is there something you typically ask for them to make for you? Or what do you normally get?
Yeah, I have like all my different things. And I tell people, because sometimes it's you walk in and they only have like Heineken Zero and maybe you don't want that, So if it's a bare bones place, I always just do club soda with a splash of some sort of juice.
Okay.
And then a bunch of limes.
Perfect. Easy.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you're having something that looks, maybe a little more elevated than Diet Coke or iced tea. And certainly have that if you want to. But sometimes there's those situations where you feel like, I kind of want to have something a little special or look a little more like it's the same thing as everybody else is drinking. So
yeah, and you can always tell them what type of glass you want it into.
Good. That's good. That's a good tip.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll make it like they're making like a kid's drink or something, and I'm like, oh no, can you actually grab me a different glass? And they're happy to. Like I really have never gotten any pushback. People are really nice about that.
They're in hospitality. They want to serve. They want you to be happy. Yes. They're hoping you're happy. Okay. Any last advice you would give to somebody maybe who's sober curious, who's listening, who is maybe curious about alcohol-free living?
It's all about small steps. So I think what kept me stuck or what, it was just the idea of forever. or, all right, my whole life's going to change. My friends are going to change. It's too overwhelming. It's just don't even think about that yet. And all of it has a way of falling into place. Right now, I would say stay curious, keep listening to podcasts, listen to other women's stories, and just try small bite-sized pieces. And if you're ready to do a little bit more, do the 100 days. I think dry January is a great start to the 100 days, but you need to give it more time to really see what it's like to have it out of your system. And it takes a long time to work its way out of your system and allow your brain to start re-regulating your dopamine levels and all of this great stuff that happens. Give it some time and just say you're doing a challenge. It doesn't have to be anything more than that, but just take these small steps.
I love that. I love that. Right. And just tell people you're doing a challenge and like, let it go because, right. Like whatever questions they have, they don't need to, it doesn't involve them. They don't need to know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great advice. That's such great advice. And right. 100 days, boy, you really feel, and that gives you an opportunity to experience different events. So maybe it's a birthday or it's an anniversary or it's, a barbecue, but there's different things that you go through maybe that you're not experiencing during like a dry January or something. So
totally. And it's okay if those feel awkward because every other time you've been walking in and your brain knows, oh, I'm about to receive some alcohol.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you stop doing that, your brain's like, what's happening? Like, where's that? So you have to give your brain some time to be like, wait, we're carving a new path here. And then it'll get it and it won't feel so awkward over time, but you have to give yourself those opportunities. A lot of people will do dry January, but just stay home for a month. And I'm like, but you didn't do any of the things then. So you're not giving yourself a chance to
Yeah. When you try to go on the shore this summer, it's going to be a little different than when you stayed home and it was snowing. And it feels very different. Yeah, no, that's right. And building those new highways in our mind. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I'll make sure everybody can follow you on Instagram. Your Instagram is Alcohol-Free Abby, ABBY. Your podcast is the Alcohol-Free
Coterie.
I'm the worst. Coterie. Okay, sorry. I'm so uneducated. I'm so sorry. My audience knows. They know I can't read a bio. I apparently screwed that up as we were starting this podcast.
Good.
Your website is AbbyCalabrese.com. It's CALAERESE.com and Abby's ABBY. I'll put that in the show notes so they can have that as well.
Yeah.
They can find you. But make sure you're following Abby on Instagram. She's adorable and just a wealth of information. So thank you. Congratulations to you on your sober journey and on just inspiring other women, inspiring others to do the same. So thank you for being my guest today.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It was so fun. Big time cheers to you for tuning in to the Thriving Alcohol-Free podcast. I hope you will take something from today's episode and make one small change that will help you to thrive and have fun in life without alcohol. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social, send up a flare, or leave a rating and a review. I am cheering for you as you discover the world of non-alcoholic drinks and as you journey towards authentic freedom. See you in the next episode.